Good day, everybody. QandAcop here. Listen, gentleman on Quora asked, great question, and it really rings true, I think. Let's unpack this just a bit. So this is what Andrew asked. If every cop is going to be suspended after a police shooting, then is it technically useless to be armed as a police officer or return fire? Wow. Very good question. In fact, you watch Lethal Weapon, those other shows, he does the Mel Gibson role, all this fancy stuff, shoots those drug dealers in those Christmas trees, that very first scene. It was remarkable, but again, could you imagine the hours? Maybe you can. Hours and hours and hours of suspension time after that. Could be days, have to go see the psychologist, but that doesn't even get into or start to breach how much information is to be collected, and the officer is going to be there. Immediately, the officer is going to be taken away, going to be put somewhere where he can't have access to anybody else. That's number one. And then later on, that officer is going to be brought back to the scene. It's going to have to walk through that scene with the detectives that are going to be there from Robbery Homicide Division, typically on the shooting squad, at least with the LAPD, and they're going to walk the officer through and have the officer explain everything that happened. There's going to be an attorney there. There's going to be an attorney for the officer. There's going to be an attorney on behalf of the city that's also there as well, supervisors. There's going to be command staff level officers there. So it's really a very difficult process to get into a shooting as a police officer. There's a huge amount of research, huge amount of stress. And of course, not to mention if in fact the officer did take somebody's life, that's a whole bunch of stress as well, not just for the officer, but the receiving end also. Now, if it's a good shooting, then everything's going to be okay, but even good shootings, you're going to have lawsuits filed from the other side, even if everything's pristine on video and the public says, great job, officer. Even if everything plays that way, there's still going to be a lot of stress and a lot of issues. So I think at the end of the day, it would be better for most police to try to not get involved if in fact they could in a shooting. But as you well know, things happen. People ambush police all the time. Police have to go to these hot calls where you're going to have other people there that happen to have guns. And unfortunately, people don't think before they act a lot of the time, where you have drugs, you have alcohol, you have all these other things involved. And it's going to depend on training, expertise, and just what's going to happen during that particular scenario. Great question. And again, every shooting is just a long, drawn-out mess for everybody involved. Everybody. It's a very difficult process. And, I think if all police officers, after having gone through it at least once, they probably wouldn't want to do it again. I'm Connor McIver, if they could help it. Q&A Cop. Thanks.